As I was making the next video on this channel, I ran into a couple of issues. One, I got sick, and the second thing is Star Wars Episode 1 was the choice for PS1. It's been talked about to death on the internet, but as I was doing it, this game is just very bad and not really fun at all in my opinion. I know there's a lot of people with nostalgia with this game, but sorry, but this game is just not good. It's got a lot of flaws going here. I felt like there was just nothing new to bring to the table about this game that other people have already done. Yeah, there's a cult following for this game for some reason. The same guys made The Simpsons Wrestling. That game's trash too. I just didn't see purpose in making a video for that game, so I just said, you know what, screw that. Let's do another Star Wars game. Star Wars Episode 3 on the Game Boy Advance, which is one people skip over because they mostly talk about the PS2 Xbox game instead. I've played this game before whenever I was a kid when it first came out, and decided to give it another go as an adult, and to see if it was worth your time to check out and play. Sit back, relax, let's talk about Star Wars Episode 3 for the Game Boy Advance. Star Wars Episode 3 for the Game Boy Advance came out in 2005. It was developed by Ubisoft of Montreal. I don't even think I need to mention what Ubisoft has done because I think a lot of you guys know what they've done, you know, stuff like Assassin's Creed, Rayman, Prince of Persia, the list goes on. But they did make another Game Boy Advance game other than this one, Star Wars Apprentice of the Force. I played this one as a kid too, so kinda cool they got to make a couple Star Wars games on the GBA. The story is pretty much on par with the movie, and it follows everything that happens pretty much from start to finish. Takes place in space over Coruscant, it's how the movie starts, and you start on the first level, a Separatist starship by General Grievous and Count Dooku. If you haven't seen the movie or anything, I won't spoil the story just in case, but basically it shows how Anakin becomes Darth Vader throughout this movie. If you haven't watched the movie, definitely go watch it. It's one of the best movies ever made, honestly. But the movie and the game tie in pretty well. When you start the game up, you can choose Anakin or Obi-Wan as a playable character. Both play pretty much almost the same, but have different attributes going for them. The gameplay entirely is a beat-em-up hack and slash, just like games like Final Fight or Knights of the Round or something like that. You like that kind of stuff? Well, you'll definitely be right at home with the controls here. The D-pad will move you left and right on the plane, and you can go in the foreground and background with up and down easily. The A button will let you jump, you'll need to do that sometimes to avoid obstacles. B is your lightsaber, and you'll attack with this. L is your deflecting, so you see lasers coming from battle droids, you can deflect them back, and R is your force abilities, and you'll have a button combination with all the buttons on the controller with R. Gameplay is straightforward. You get to the end of the level and you move on to the next. Usually you got a couple levels and then a boss is normally the formula of this game, so sometimes with a sub-boss in between. After beating a level, you get a couple upgrades you can do. If you collect these green orbs you've been seeing, you can upgrade your force powers, and it depends on the player you play as of the force powers, and you can upgrade your strength, health, or force meter too to make it go further. You start off with about 2 or 3 lives whenever you start the game, and if you lose all your lives and get a game over, you just start that level again, and there's also auto-saving in between levels, so it's not really a problem for progress in this game. They pull a Castlevania here with this game, and the game starts off the same for Obi-Wan and Anakin, up to the point of Count Dooku and escaping the Separatist starship. You do that level. Well then, after that, you have 2 levels and a boss for the rest of the game, and Obi-Wan goes through the Utapau system, because that's what he does in the movie to take down General Grievous, and Anakin has Coruscant, and he goes back to see what happens with Emperor Palpatine and Mace Windu, as well as taking down the Jedi. The very end of the game, though, is when you face each other, so pretty much the final boss is the other character you didn't pick. Pretty cool gameplay element here, but that's actually how the movie goes, so that's kinda cool. Your usual suspects of pickups are in this game. Like I mentioned earlier, there's those green orbs that get you those abilities at the end of the level. You can also pick up extra lives here and there, as well as back to tanks for health, blue clouds for force replenishments, and sometimes invincibility, but I only saw this like twice in the whole game. Each level introduces newer enemies you have not fought in the game. It starts off with battle droids, the most typical kind because they're easy, and there's a lot more advanced battle droids you'll fight, and depending on who you play as, like Obi-Wan, he eventually fights the clone troopers, and the clones are definitely tough to take down for sure. Anakin got the short end of the stick though, he has to fight the Jedi, and that goes to my next point is the difficulty. Obi-Wan's playthrough is a lot easier than Anakin's, mainly because Anakin has a lot more aggressive abilities like Force Choke and all that stuff, where Obi-Wan has more defensive elements like he can put a shield, he has speed, Jedi mind trick, as well as healing. Overall though, Anakin just has a harder playthrough. You know, taking down the Jedi is harder than the clones, and Mustafar, good god, it's much harder than the end of Obi-Wan's. The boss fights are done well in this game. It's kind of like a one-on-one fighter, but mostly it's just a timing thing where you have to deflect their attacks, then go for an attack. It's not too hard. Like earlier, Count Dooku's your first boss as both characters, Obi-Wan fights General Grievous, and even Anakin fights Mace Windu. Technically he doesn't in the movie, but for the gameplay's sake, it's kind of cool. When you beat a boss, you learn a new special ability. So you have a special ability when you start the game, and it's pretty much like your super attack screen cleaner kind of move. While the moves you learn throughout the game, they're actually weaker, but they don't use your entire meter up like your beginning move does. Gives you a little bit of gameplay variety and moves that you want to use and how you want to use them. Star Wars Episode 3 on the GBA is really good. It's a really fun game. Very good, well done beat 'em up here. The presentation is awesome. It's very on par with the movie, as well as it looks great. It's got good pixel art and just looks fantastic overall. The music is good. It's not the best in terms of quality, but you can tell the tracks are definitely the ones from the movie. The only issues I have with this game is there are some small sections where it's brutal. There are some falling projectiles that'll just destroy you, and feels a little cheap to be honest with you, because there's nothing else you can do but just take the hits. My only other complaint with this game though is the difficulty. In terms of getting through the game, you only can play on the Jedi difficulty, which is normal. You have to beat the game as each character to get the Master difficulty. Kinda silly, don't get why a lot of games did this at the time, but at least there's some replay value in terms of playing as Anakin or Obi-Wan. In my personal opinion, this is definitely one of the better Star Wars movie adaptation games that you could ever play, and it's one of my personal favorite Star Wars games ever. Can't beat KOTOR though, that's the GOAT for sure. But if you're gonna play a good Star Wars game, and you want to play a classic retro style of game here, then you can't go wrong with Star Wars Episode 3 on the Game Boy Advance. There's no real way to play this game except for the Game Boy Advance, and as well as the Nintendo DS. The game is also on there. They just add a few useless spaceship levels that are not important, they're just whatever, but the game goes for around $15 or so loose, which isn't too bad for a game like this. If you want a good Star Wars game, I'd definitely say go for it. Well, that's all I've got to say about this game. Maybe I'll go outside and practice my lightsaber dueling skills. I appreciate you guys for sticking around to the end to watch this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a like and leave a comment if you got anything to say. Thank you guys for watching. Y'all take it easy.